Soft skills can be learnt from books, during conversations, and in teams. We all need them, so how can you develop them? Let's explore. Here we are, another week and some more soft skills development. I hope you are watching on and enjoying this series. For me, it's really nice to have the chance to deep dive into various skills. And this week, we're focused on a particular skill, one of the first of 30 that I'll introduce you to this year through this Soft Skills for the 21st Century framework. And it's understanding social reality. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about soft skills of social intelligence. We're talking about street smarts. We're talking about the social skills that we need to get on with others. And maybe you've been in those awkward situations. 11 years ago, I moved to Vienna, and it was a complete culture shock where I had to learn and adjust to whole different ways of being. My understanding of social environments and what I'd been used to in Australia were null and void. And the things that I tried often were faced with resistance. And so there can be a complete kind of meltdown that needs to happen in order to truly pivot and understand where we can go from there. So I've got a couple of pictures for you. Maybe you recognize also your social skills need a bit of an update when it comes to your parties and events, social drinks, work functions. And so there are many instances where we need to think about how are we showing up with others? How can we make a positive impact? And how can we recognize what's happening within those social environments? And certainly the Kubatova study that I'm referencing throughout this series talks about 5 different areas where we can really focus our attention. The first being social nuances, which is about knowing what kind of situation we're in, whether we should shake hands, bow, or do something different. It's about dynamics comprehension. This is about understanding social cues. You know what it's like? You're at these dinner parties and you get the sense that somebody wants to move on. Let them. Just wrap up the conversation nicely so that you don't feel at a loose end. And that can be particularly frustrating at times if you're halfway through a story. But we have to recognize what's happening. What's the key idea and the takeaway that we're trying to achieve by being in that social event? So be a good team player and don't go too deep necessarily all the time. It's about disparity awareness, which means that we're knowing and understanding social injustices in the world. We recognize that, there's that quiet person. Bring them into the conversation so that they too can speak. It's a voice in those conversations. It's about interpersonal navigation, which is really about understanding how we make people feel connected. When we want to go deep and we can establish good connection. So in appropriate moments, this is fantastic. It's about communal interaction management. So this is this sense of harmony and collaboration that we want to have with people and creating a sense of ease by understanding the environments that we're in. So you've got to consider your environment. Here's a picture of a famous Vienna cafe. And I brought this up when I found this picture because I thought this kind of epitomizes a whole different understanding. There's cafe culture all over the world. And every society, every country, city has differences. So in Vienna, Café Kultur, here you see is quiet. There's small tables. It's about intimacy and connection, or people individually sitting there reading newspapers for hours and enjoying that. So bringing in, as we did years ago, kids into that noisy environment was not necessarily socially acceptable. And you start to recognize the kinds of body language that people share when they are doing that, when they feel uncomfortable, that is. And so it was Daniel Goleman, too, who wrote a famous book on social intelligence. And he often describes that empathy and social skills are an important part and an offshoot to emotional intelligence. So we do need to understand our own emotions in this process as well. If you haven't downloaded the book, here's the QR code, get into it. And what I'd like to share here out of the skills are some of the ones that I think are really influenced by this understand or connected in a way in my own understanding to the social skill here of understanding of societal reality. So we need to communicate well. We need to understand the social environment and work our communication in such a way that people feel at ease. This requires cultural intelligence. This is not knowing whether to shake hands, kiss, or bow. It's going deeper into understanding the nuances. And that might be workplace culture, what's appropriate, what's not, in terms of behaviors and body language. We need to therefore be self-aware naturally and being aware of who and how we're operating in different circumstances, which leads to emotional intelligence. So if we're being smart with our emotions, then we can truly understand, in this particular situation, maybe my feelings of being ill at ease are what's creating some of this social anxiety that I might be feeling here, or I'm not recognizing clearly what I need to see, want to get out of this situation as well. So let's wrap it up here a little bit. Be aware, of course, practice and look towards mastery. Look towards those who are socially competent and we say, right, these people have a good mix of skills that I can learn from. Then work backwards. How aware are you of your situation? Listen before you speak. This is partially a quote from Erin Meyer, who wrote The Culture Map. And she talks absolutely about different situations where we need to listen with our eyes, be observant, what's going on, and building our understanding of societal realities or our social skills here is going to be very helpful when we pay attention first before we interact. Culture, emotion, communication, these are some of the soft skills that are connected to these areas, of course, and they interplay with what we want to achieve. And so we need to be aware of what's happening for us. No way is the way. This is a learning philosophy at 6 Seconds, the emotional intelligence organization. And I like this because it really shows us there's no one way to do things. There's not one right way. Now, in certain situations, yes, there is a way that's strongly advised, maybe in moments of faith and so forth, and following procedures. But in general, we need to recognize that in our world now, we're all different. And so we bring that presence that there's not one particular way that we should focus. And finally, find your tribe, your circle. So your social intelligence will be much more on point when you are actually working with the groups of people where you feel most comfortable, where you fit in to that as well. So you may be finding that, like when I moved here to Austria, over time, things got easier. Now I feel much more integrated. I've learned the ways, I've understood the societal behaviors. I'm able to recognize the social nuances in a situation and not feel so offended. And then at the same time, I can play my part in my community and still bring elements of myself, go deeper and connect with people that I want to, and recognize that I don't need this massive circle of people. And there's still times where I get it wrong, don't get me wrong. And so no way is the way is a constant reminder of what I might need to consider as I'm moving forward as well. So think about your own social skills, your own social intelligence. And would you say that you are able to work with diverse groups of people? Do you have an ease in conversation and communication with people? Or are there some moments where you need to be a little bit more self-aware, a little bit more emotionally intelligent, and recognize that we can bring other people also into the conversation, and perhaps that will have a positive effect on us, but also on our community around us.